All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about the knit stitch and the anatomy of a knit stitch. For this particular video, I'm using the needles and the yarn that we'll be using for our first project together. And this one is the Dishy worsted weight. And again, I got this in a very plain color so that I can see my stitches and my stitch pattern. My needles are Clover US 7 or 4.5 millimeter. And these are the needles that I recommend purchasing for a beginner. I recommend bamboo. Bamboo has a little bit more texture and it hangs on to the yarn much better, and it'll help you stay controlled as you learn how to knit. So the first thing we need to learn is how to do a cast on. I'm going to show you how to do a long tail cast on. That is the method that we're going to use for our washcloths. And I'm only going to cast on about 20 stitches, so it's going to be a lot less than for the washcloths, just so that I can show you how to do a knit stitch and what knit stitch and what garter stitch looks like. And what garter stitch is if we knit every row. So we knit and we turn the work to the wrong side and we knit again. And getting a good even knit is going to take a lot of practice. So don't get too stressed out about it. This is just really a practice round. So I'm going to set one needle aside because we really only need one needle for this. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. And I'm going to show you first how to do a slip knot. So this is how I do it. I wrap the yarn around my finger twice. And then I go hop, hop, and then off. And there's my my slip knot. And I'm getting caught because I'm also watching this through the camera. I am not a professional YouTuber, clearly. And it may take me a few videos here to really help to get better at this. Okay, so I've got my tail. This is the end of the yarn in front. And I've got the working yarn. So this is the yarn that attaches to my ball. My ball of yarn is right here. And it's going to get a little bit confusing, and I'm going to do what I can to help explain what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tail and I'm going to loop it kind of over my thumb, and I'm going to hold it with using my pinky and my ring finger. Then I'm going to take my working yarn, and I typically just loop it over my finger like that, and it's going to make like a diamond shape. And I'm going to turn it just a little bit so that, again, this is my tail right here. This is my working yarn over here over my index finger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under where my thumb is, and we're going to go over the working yarn. And we're going to let go, and we're going to just pull it snug. Not too snug. We don't want it super tight. We just want just enough that it's going to be kind of close up to the needle, but not super tight. The tighter it is, the harder that is going to be to knit. So you can see what that looks like. And so we're just going to turn our fingers back so that the palm is facing us. I'm going to go under the thumb, over the finger. So that's 3 stitches. And again, under the thumb, over the finger. That's 4, and if you hear licking in the background, that is Mochi licking his feet. So that's 4, under the thumb, over the finger. That's 5. We're going to just pull that, and I'm going to just readjust a little bit here. And again, under the finger, under the thumb, over the finger. Did I get that? Nope. See, I split that yarn, so I'm going to take that off before I go any further. There we go. That's better. So now you know what to look for when the yarn is splitting. I'm just readjusting my hands here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Under the thumb. You can see that it's catching. And part of that is just because I'm working in the video that's showing up on my camera, so I'm not quite as coordinated as I normally am. Okay, so we're going to keep going. All right. I think we'll stop at 10 just so we can start showing you the knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One more. We're going to go again under this thumb. And I want you to note that I'm not picking up that second. So there's this strand that's kind of behind my thumb and this strand that's in front of my thumb. I'm only picking up the one that's in front of my thumb and going over the one that comes across my finger. So there we go. So that's 10 stitches. I'd probably recommend doing a few more just as you're getting started. I will show you it. You'll be able to see it on mine what my stitches look like. But as you're getting started, you're going to want to probably practice on a few more stitches than this. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to move this to the right hand, and we're going to make sure that this strand that's coming off here is our working yarn, and it is, because this is our tail right here. This one's our tail. You can see the end. I'm just going to put that down, and I actually kind of grab that and hold it when I'm first starting out so that I don't by accidentally use it. So to knit, we're going to go under the leg in the front. So the knit stitch has two legs to it. So this is the front leg and this is the back leg. And you'll see as you get further into things that most of the time you'll knit through the front, but there will be directions to knit through the back of the loop. But we want to knit in the front of the loop. So we're going to go under and catch the front of the loop. You can see there that it's just the front. And we're going to slide the needle towards the back behind the left needle. We're going to go around between the two needles. And we're going to slide the needle underneath and slide that stitch off. And it's very loose right now, so I'm going to tighten that up just a little bit. And we're going to do that again. Under, behind the first needle, or the left needle, around and between the two needles, and we're going to catch that yarn as we come through the bottom. Okay. So again, sorry, this is on autofocus. I see that it's not focusing particularly great. Make sure you get that yarn between the needles and off. And again, I'm going to go around. And I'm knitting English style, which is my yarn is in my right hand. And if it helps, I'll show you. I hold onto my yarn like this. My middle finger is what's doing the work, and I really need a manicure before I film more of these videos. But my middle finger is doing the directing. My ring finger and my pinky finger are holding the yarn. My index finger is really just kind of hanging out. It's there to stabilize when I go under to do my stitch. After that, I kind of pinch between my thumb and my finger very gently to hold my needle in place while I go around. And then we're going to make sure we don't slide that stitch off too early, and then we're going to slide that stitch off. There we go. So what often happens, and this is why I recommend bamboo needles, is when you're at this stage, those metal needles, this stitch will slide right off of that needle really easily, and it can be just really hard as a beginner to learn how to pick that up. So I really recommend the bamboo needles. If metal is all you've got, or you've thrifted them or anything, it's fine. Just be aware that it's going to be kind of a pain, and you might lose stitches because of that. And I'm getting a nice gap here. That happens with the particular type of cast on that I chose. It happens. Longtail cast on is actually not my favorite cast on. I have there's about a zillion different ways of casting on and binding off when you're done with your knitting. And so I just highly recommend, there'll be one specified for specific projects, but really I recommend if there's something you end up liking, just use the one that you like. I know probably designers are hating me for that. So that's our first row. So we're all done. So we're going to turn around and we're going to do the same thing back. We're going to knit everything. And then we're going to talk about the anatomy of this knit stitch. So, and you can tell that that's not my favorite knit, that cast on method, because it's all loosey-goosey on the bottom and I don't really like that. So again, we're going to go in, we're going to go under, around and between the two needles, and under and off. So under, and this is going to take a lot of practice for you to get even stitches. It's going to look wonky. And it's okay. Just if you want to conserve your yarn, you can stop here and just pull out all your stitches. It's pretty easy to do. Just take your needles out of the loops and just pull and wind your yarn back onto your ball and start again. And you can do that over and over and over and over again until the yarn shreds and it's difficult to use. But you can keep practicing over and over. You don't have to do a big piece. You don't have to do a big scarf. Just make sure that you get practice in. You're going to want this one to be in pretty good condition before we do our first project. You want to make sure that you're pretty comfortable with it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to quick talk about the anatomy of a stitch. Just so that as you come up with problems or as you're working, you can kind of tell what's going on. So as we knit a stitch, you can see that there's, first and foremost, if we pull this stitch, it's kind of a U shape. Let me knit one more so you can see it a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to see in the middle stitches versus the stitches on the edge. So here we go. So it's kind of an upside down U, right? And you can see that it kind of makes a V towards the back. So the legs make a V and the top of the loop makes kind of a bar shape. So as you knit, you're going to loop around and you're going to kind of scoop your stitch out here underneath. And as you do that, this is not helping me, and you're going to push the bar to the back of the stitch. So if we look at the back, there's a bar here and there's a bar here. So those are our two stitches. So the nice thing about that is you always know what side of your knitting you're on, because you should have kind of a bar at the bottom. And a lot of people, when they're starting out, think that this doesn't look like knitting because it doesn't look like the little V-shaped patterns that you get. You get the V shape by knitting. It's called stockinette. Either knitting everything while you're knitting in a circle, so knitting in the round, or you get that from doing a knit across one side and a purl across the other side. So purling is kind of our other stitch that we're going to learn, and that'll be a separate video. So now that we're done, I'm going to finish off this row and then I'll show you what this looks like. So this is called garter stitch, which is where we're just knitting absolutely everything. And so what you'll see is you'll see little rows of bars, and there'll be a bar on the top and one on the bottom, and that's one of your rows. And if you pull it down, you can see that the V's are happening kind of in between those rows. So this is what your knitting should look like. And yeah, that's the knit stitch. Keep practicing it. And once you get it going, it's going to look, it'll take a little time for it to get even, but once you do, this is the foundation stitch. So you definitely want to practice this and get it in good condition before we start doing our too many washcloths.